occurred. However, we must note that the matter is now before the Honorable Chief Justice to determine in accordance with due process, and we will be following keenly how the matter unfolds. But ladies and gentlemen, in the midst of this, we still expect the OSC to do its job, to continue to perform its duties diligently, even as he responds to the allegations. It is imperative for his office, alongside other key corruption agencies like SHRAJ, to continue to play their respective roles in combating corruption. Now, some of the developments that I have referred to earlier and the responses to them for us also raises concern about the functioning of our frontline anti-corruption institutions, particularly like the new kid on the block, which is the OSP. The establishment of the OSP was seen as an important missing piece in the array of anti-corruption institutions to tackle the criminality of politically exposed persons in government. It is widely acknowledged that expecting the Attorney General to prosecute colleagues within and outside the government was untenable, necessitating the delegation of prosecutorial powers to an independent entity. Now, despite the goodwill of the office received at its inception, that quickly turned sour. Mr. Amidu, its first occupant, constantly raised concerns about inadequate facilities, logistical challenges, and occasional executive interference. His eventual resignation laid blame at the president's door. A sense of disillusionment pervaded among many Ghanaians regarding the office and its potential. Now, following this period of uncertainty, Mr. Kissie Jabin assumed the role of Special Prosecutor. Despite encountering similar hurdles to those experienced by Mr. Amidu, the office persevered and gradually found its footing, effectively carrying out its duties. While it has encountered occasional setbacks, the OSP has remained steadfast and taken on cases expected of a specialized anti-corruption organization. The public has increasingly acknowledged the crucial role played by the OSP and has also shown strong support whenever it has come under attack. The OSP recent frustrations has come from taking on Madam Cecilia Dapa's case. The public's pact involving the Attorney General, Yoko, and the OSP shows clearly that the OSP and government relations are strained, to put it mildly. The challenges of the OSP has even led to calls from some sections of society for the OSP to be abolished. In fact, there was actually legal proceedings that were initiated contesting the constitutional and statutory basis for the OSP establishment. But if we truly aspire to fight corruption and succeed, our institutions must operate independently, and we have to ensure that we keep it independent. Otherwise, we will not succeed. To draw on some conclusions and our demands, corruption and impunity threaten to engulf and destabilize our republic if well-meaning Ghanaians do not stand up, or they do nothing and then they look on. Now it's not the time to be a spectator. We have to assert our citizenship and demand accountability at all times. We implore Ghanaians to continue supporting frontline anti-graft institutions, especially the OSP, recognizing their specialized role and the need for robust leadership. When you are set up to take on the most powerful in our society, when they are engaged in criminality, it's not an easy job. And that's our friend Mr. Domlovo always said, when you fight corruption, corruption will also fight you back. So you need to be equipped if you are going to succeed. But at the same time, we must also hold these institutions accountable for their actions. And as we step into the election season, politicians seeking vote on promises to tackle corruption must be reminded of their responsibility to act once they assume office. But in this regard, some of them already are in office. So And there are many things that they can do now, and rather than wait for some pie in the sky later when they assume power. In this regard, we demand the following actions from government to enhance the prospects of accountable governance. Number one, we want a full publication of the KPMG report on the SML-GRA agreement. I think that demand has been made. We are still waiting for the President to publish the full report. We also want the report from the CID of the police service on the sources of Madam Cecilia Dapa's monies that were found in her houses and the ones that were allegedly stolen by her house help. We also urge Yoko to reconsider its position on not investigating the Cecilia Dapa case in accordance with Section 1.3 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act. A stakeholder agreement. We also, our third demand, we believe that there should be a stakeholder engagement in the preparation and development of accountability and anti-corruption coordination legislation. We believe that all these turf wars and disputes and sometimes publicly between our agencies are not going to help us to fight corruption. But if we're going to overcome that and to streamline that action, we need legislation to cover their coordination. Even an MOU is not enough, because we cannot be guaranteed that everybody will comply if it's not a legislation. Number 4, we want to see cabinet approval and the laying of the Conduct of Public Office Holders Bill to regulate our weak assets and liabilities disclosure regime, gift giving in the public service, influence peddling, and the conflict of interest, among other public ethics behaviors. We as a coalition are convinced that this is a critical piece of legislation in our fight against corruption, particularly in terms of prevention. We are also convinced that the bill, which has been languishing in the corridors of power for over a decade, should include provisions on unexplained wealth, a strong sanctions regime, and publication of assets and liabilities of public officers. 5, a withdrawal of the appointment of the parliamentary aspirants to SOEs, apart from the obvious insensitivity to our economic situation and the deepening politicization of parastatals, then the expansion of the already bad governance of appointing MPs to sit on the board of SOEs. All is a real cause for worry. We also demand, through investigations into the justification for selling shares in the 4 state-owned hotels, as well as other allegations of conflict of interest, abuse of power, lack of due process, and procurement breaches. We support the TUC and organized labor's call to halt the transaction immediately. And lastly, on the Poalugu multipurpose dam, we demand the Ministry of Finance and Works and Housing and other relevant agencies to publish the full details of the work done, including its current status, and disclose all payments made on the project. The public deserves to know how our funds are being utilized. I thank you very much for your attention. God bless you. God bless us all. Thank you.
I'll introduce our colleague who joined us when Kojo was speaking. She's Madam Mary Awelana Ada. She's with GII. Now we'll take some questions. Since we've all heard the statement, we'll take questions from you. And so we'll start with 3 questions. Any of my colleagues on the table can take a question and then answer it. Yes. Your name and the...
So a lot of demands here from the coalition Are you looking at timelines for any of them? And also, what other actions are you taking after when these timelines ends? Or immediately or in the short term, what other actions are you taking?
Does anyone else who take the first three, who deal with it, and then come for another three? Any question? Yeah, Kojo, can you take it first, please?
Yes, we have. Well, I don't think they are a long list. I think they are. Yeah, but these are sort of basic transparency and accountability issues. When the president, for example, released the summary of the KPMG report, I think everybody appreciated that at least these revelations have been made clear to us. But there were still inconsistencies, disputes about what exactly the report captures. And I think, just in the public interest, having taken that action to ask KPMG to audit it, and we have to remember, this matter would not have come out or would not have led to those actions if the Fourth Estate had not put out the issues. So the fact that when they put out the issues, we are now understanding that is all these infractions that have occurred, and yet this contract and transaction has been allowed to persist all this while. So for us, releasing the full report so that we get, because KPMG's reputation is also at stake, we want to get a full understanding of what exactly they have found out, and then we can take it from there. Because I am still asking myself, how is it that we are accepting that all these contract manipulations happened and nobody is being held responsible for it? We are just talking about whether SML should have the contract or not have the contract. So that's the first step. Now, in terms of timelines, we are not putting any timelines on this. We expect that government should do its due. But we are, as we said, we are always monitoring keenly. If we have to meet and discuss that, we don't seem to be getting any response, what should be the next course of action we should take? We'll meet and do that. But everything that we are listed is basic. The Pualugu Dam, for instance, I'm surprised that I thought by now the simple thing that the Ministry of Finance would have done is to put out that, oh yes, these are the works that have been done, this is what was certified, and that's why we paid $11.9 million to the company. That's how a government should behave. People should not forget that we are under an IMF program, where we were just recently trying to secure 600 million. And when we didn't get that, you saw the problems that we were having with Dumso. If we didn't borrow money to be able to stabilize the situation, and what tells us that we're going to be able to do it going forward. So 100 million, 11.9 million here, 1 billion here, and all of that. This is somebody that is so indebted. So I think that we should, it's not just about, whether there's a conflict of interest. The bigger picture is that this kinds of behavior is making it harder for us to solve our problems, which at the end is about just, feeding ourselves, having shelter, and also basic necessities of life. So yes, there's no timelines now. And in terms of actions, as for the coalition, when we think that a situation, we've done it before, we've gone on demonstrations, we've done all kinds of things. But when the time comes, we feel that we've given enough time and people are not acting, we have to take our course. We have even gone to court before, so the actions, there are many options.
Does any other question, please? Yes, the gentleman in the back. Good morning. Can you please raise your voice a bit?
I'm Ken. I work with Joy News.
Okay.
Is am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes. So with the Brian Champon 60% stake of hotels owned by Snakes, Brian has been speaking. He said there was a competitive bidding across the world. He happens to be one of them. And according to Snakes, it felt like his vision matched what they wanted. He also mentioned that he's a stakeholder in Rock City Hotel, and that no law prevents him from going or venturing into such, an agreement with Snakes. So really, why would you and other organizations want this sale not to go on? Because according to him, he has breached no law. No law of such has been breached. So his concerns really are that what is the premise of your demands for these hotels not to be sold to you?
Yes. Is there any other one, or we would just take this question? Before Kojo comes in, I just want to make this caveat. See, he has a right, like every other Ghanaian, to participate in anything. But as a coalition, I am from Citizens Ghana movement before I joined the coalition, and in my personal view, all he can do and SNIT together is to show us the documentation, how everything happened, because he's a minister of state. So in order for me not to doubt any malpractices that may have occurred, they should just put things out, how the whole process of procurement was executed. Yakojo.
And the first thing we should ask is SNIT itself, in making a determination that it should sell the 4 hotels. What is the benefit to SNIT and therefore to Ghana? We know that Badi Beach Hotel is one of the best run hotels, one of the most profitable. The state was already getting dividends from its investment in Labadi Beach Hotel. So why would SNIT, that is already making a profitable business, investment in a profitable business, decide that it wants to sell it off? We need to understand the public policy justification for that. Because that is the other thing that we are, we get all these people exercising their discretion to make decisions that they say is supposed to benefit us. But they don't really, and then we are supposed to just accept the fact that they have exercised their discretion. But what is the original justification? What is the reason why you are doing that? And can we assess it and evaluate that you have made the right decision? Then, as for Mr. Brian Champon's situation, it's very, very clear. Any public officer that is having to be part of a decision that he himself is going to benefit already creates a conflict of interest situation. So the question is, how do you cure it? Even if he was not a minister, but we know that he's a leading member of the ruling party, that itself will create a conflict of interest situation. So to be transparent and above board, because yes, he as a Ghanaian has a right, but every other Ghanaian also has a right. So if you are going to balance people's rights, then you have to be above board. You have to be transparent. We have to understand all the processes and how then, this decision came that you are the one that is supposed to be benefiting. I don't know whether he has divested his interest into a blind trust to separate himself from his business, because that is one of the cures for conflict of interest. Has he done that? I don't know. So I think that there's a lot of things that we need to assess in order to. Otherwise, it's pretty easy. If the president came right now today and say, I have a business, he sits in cabinet, he's making a government decision, and then he says, but I'm also a Ghanaian, why can't I participate? We can't do that. We are using public money, it's not his money. So we need to make sure that the standards are fair. Everybody gets a fair opportunity, to participate in anything that government puts out, for people to benefit from. I don't know if my colleagues wanted to add.
That microphone. Does it work?
So I'm not quite sure why you state categorically that he says that he hasn't breached anything legal, because there are constitutional elements that have been pointed out over and over again as issues that have been breached. I think in Mr. Blackwell's thing, he points out to two articles, Article 78.3 and Article 98.2. And you do know that the Constitution says that a public officer ought not to put themselves in a position of potential conflict of interest, not just conflict of interest. In this case, we see actual conflict of interest. But the Constitution says don't put yourself in a position of potential. It means you should be alert to the likelihood of conflict of interest and prevent yourself to be in that situation. So it is not accurate to say that from the information available, nothing has been breached. I've also heard him talk about not being, he's a non-executive director or a non-functional director. That's neither here nor there. As far as the law is concerned, if you're a director and a beneficial owner, it means that any interests or premium that come from the business comes to you. So on the surface of the documentation available, he is the one who is benefiting from whatever Rock City does. So we cannot be convinced at this point unless there's additional information that provides us facts to the contrary. So please, let's not buy into that thing of nothing has been breached. Two constitutional elements. There's no evidence to show that he had actually recorded or requested from the Speaker of Parliament permission to do things like this. And the Constitution says do not place yourself in a position of potential conflict of interest. So I think that this is an issue that we have every right to demand that the transaction should be stopped and there should be an investigation as to how we got to this stage. Thank you.
Yeah, any other question or a follow-up? Yeah. Yeah, anyone of us from the table? You see, but
I think what we have asked is that, this is the point where we get more information to evaluate all of the issues.
Yeah. Please, your name again, the first name. Kenneth, yes. Mary, you wanted to? Okay.
Sorry, so at this point, what we are requesting is the contract or the sales that have gone on, the procurement, have there been breaches? And if there have been, what are these? We are also asking that we want transparency in the process. Just like we said, we are supporting the TUC and other labor bodies, including ourselves who pay SNITs. And so this is very critical that we know what was the process. If they say it's transparent, how transparent is it that we are all now getting to know, even though some of us might have heard it a long time ago, that this is something that has happened. Again, what in procurement, there is a lot of things that goes on. The critical issue now is not how much the consultation process has gone into it, because we haven't done a background research into that. And so responding to your issue would be a difficult one. But we are saying that whatever the issue is, certainly we want to see that there is accountability. And as Kojo said, this is a public policy issue. So if the Constitution says states-owned agencies can own and acquire property, and they can dispense of them. If they are doing so, they should also use those same channels within which they operationalize them to also disengage, and that's what we are talking about. And then talks about potential conflict of interest. The conflict of interest test is also in two other categories. We are talking about perceived. So a public officer is not to put himself in a situation that will make people say or think in any way that the person is doing anything that has a potential to be a conflict. So perception is also very important here, and we want to get that out of the way. Then we have the actual conflict of interest, which in this case smells like that. And as it is said, if it smells like a duck, it walks like a duck, certainly it must certainly be one. Thank you.
Yeah, and Ken, if I may add to what's been said so far, I mean, in consultancies, I mean, there are standard rates that are charged. So once we are privy to all the documentations for this transaction that has gone on, then one can actually make a value statement on whether it's too much money or they didn't charge. Because one of the things we should all bear in mind, this may be a good transaction for SNIT, but they need to convince us that it is good value for money, and maybe because they are not hoteliers, they are not really managing it well. But it shouldn't just be given to anybody just like that because they think that person can make money for them, because the monies are for pensioners. These are potential funds that people, when they come home after 60 years, will live off. And we can all testify to what has happened in the not too recent past. What has happened to the bonds? You remember a lot of pensioners were picketing at the ministry. And if this is the basic hope for every pensioner, if it's being divested in a way that is not too clear to them and all of us, I think it's our right to question it and be giving all the access to whatever has transpired for us to also be convinced, because there are equally good businessmen out of SNIT and consultants who can also peruse these documents and then tell us whether it's a good deal that has happened. Any other question, please? Sorry. Can any one of us just summarize what could you read in local language for us? Okay, Samuel. No, we passed the other way off.
Okay. Enti se ye hwe near Dr. Asante any Citizens Coalition kana enyoma nson 7 things ye pese ye nyina Ghana for ye 200 more. First one say ye pese ye hwe se KPMG reporter omudekoma president on SML ne GRA deal no president on publishing reports nema ye nyina ye hunia ewom. If we say idea abe public interest ade ye nyina ni je ho yenim say MFW for akoye RTI request, but still ye be pushy say president on publish reports on fan to abonten magana fo nyina ye hwem na ye ntiase ye no ne ye first demand aye. Second thing ye kan any say ye pese ye hu CID any Ghana police omo ebe kire mu fa kwa Madam Cecilia Dapa sika ebe da edi se ne house helps area no fa kwa sika ni efree ebaye ye pese ye hu yokofo nso se fine omo aka se enya ade a age amomo kwan to prosecute there, but ye pese omo san adwin hu biom in light of the fact say ye share ye anti-money laundering law na section 13 kwan bi e wo ho sa e say you kohwe no mutimi edi sa adwuma no. That's the second thing I hear here. Say police ni CID embe ma full information on bibia sikani every buy your house helps ni area ye no na you ko for so omunsan enwen nia omokan ni ho biom. The third thing I hear here ni say ye pese ye hu eye a stakeholder engagement aban any ya civil society any all other interested Ghanaians nyina say ekwan ben ye be fa so a ye ndwumaku a omudi ketasehye any proye any dream ho adwuma no mbetimi aye adwuma abom yenim say nansen attorney general ni yoko ni OSP abeye insensem bi between them I say ball aye nyina ye pass no but ye pese ye hu say how do they work together? Ombe den aye adwuma bom aboaye amaya kwantia ketasehye ne proye na ne ye kan say yempe say ebeye say o yen sign ni memorandum of understanding nkwa na mum yen hwe a full blown document ebetimi aboa masa nwumaku nyina aye adwuma bom senka yoko any OSP aye adwuma abom yi police attorney general nyina kan bom. In fact obia odi ketasehye ni dream ho adwuma kan bom aye adwuma yi anka ejidi say ketasehye ne proye betimi to ase o Ghana. That is our third demand. Say yen hwe senia yebeya yebetimi amasa nwumaku nyina aka bom aye adwuma yi. And the fourth thing I yepe any say your conduct of public officers bill other cabinet ache ye sese de ye pese ye de to aban pinifo enim in fact ye to man pini enim say ompia sa bill no enko parliament na parliament endi hu dwuma na mo pass ni ye sa bill ni mu no ye obibia about assets and liabilities disclosure any giving say ye che ye ma achede edma ye public officers no ye pese ye hu ni ye se emra edani nyina ho ye nim se wokọ aman bi so a wo beche aban edwuma ye ni bi ade no emra da ho wuntimi ntra a certain amount of money ye pese ye hu se ya pass sa ni omani nyina so that wo ba ben mu a wo be declare wo asset emra wo ho a ebe guide wo behavior even when you are there. And recently so you have to say you are appointed some aspiring MPs say omumra meye National Investment Bank any boss in Penifo ni na ye person president or withdraw sa appointments nya ewo ya adwim no ye politicize ye statal institutions no and bibia ye person president no ohwe na or withdraw. And 6 ye hwe say sa snit eye omo shares a omo ton a Rock City na etoni ade ni nyina no yenye full disclosure. In fact, a thorough investigations from beginning to end. Na ye hu bibia edemu ye. Te se nia na yenua e kan ebi mpa na ye bibi papa bi e masnet. But omo nka ma ye nyina ye nti ase. Ye nso ye fa ye nhwem. Ye nyina ye tu asnet. Ye nyina e contributors to the fund. Ye pese ye hu nia fund no e de sika ye. Na the 7th one e Palugu multipurpose dam no. Aban etua $11.9 million ama company a omuye se edwuma no allegations are abani say yenye edwuma no but yetua sika no ye pese ye san hu yenya full disclosure on side no edwuma yaye any how much has been paid na ya hwe say edwuma yaye no any sika aban etua no ni nyina eyade a ekoyi ana. But to sum it all up no nia ye kan say eye corruption ketasehye any impunity say obi edi ne nsa besi ne bo aye bibia onim say emra no entimi nya ne hwe no eyade a say yanhwe ni a ebese oman no. And as Citizens Coalition no ye pese ye nyina every single Ghanaian regardless of a political affiliation yemfa yeni endi echire ye uma yenkai say this is the only Ghana yewo oman ye wani enti ye pese ye hu say ye nyina as citizens no ye di echire amasa aketa hye any dream any impunity no yetimi aye hu adwuma ama Ghana man no afa ne ntampa efra nya ye de ba ye ne edase
I'm a person in church friends parliamentary candidates issue no kakra. The first thing is O share IMF report now. IMF report no. Raise serious concerns about SOEs. And you can SOEs are state enterprises, state-owned enterprises. You are even na Cocoa Board Munna account. The way you manage SOEs, and a car or more dear baby to a buying so. It's no cajon and a debt no. A costron. Enti omo can say improve omo governance of the SOEs. Before you appoint omo call SOEs near daddy because a business now running. Enti say only IMF on a program now omo the IMF implementing no a government of Ghana program mo and IMF support omo a designing program no. I almost say ye were problem way na ye person solve it. Now why yes and she say na wakofa parliamentary candidate oba contested for elections in the next couple of months. Say onko NIB no onko heady NIB were serious problems. Time Ben Obenya edi ahwe NIB. NIB free problems now woman sana Ghana benefiting from NIB. Na sanka politicians no sanka your business and come running is that. I don't know public service na the I say bibia ebetimi bibia keke. Yenka dia anka ye be indifferent. But about public service there ebetimi bibia. The first problem is a very insensitive. I said you find it serious. Because you tell me so there why you there now call the NT say any a cano a diet issue and affect the economy now go for businesses say but to the way you why you there so yeah and now the aqua do home it is a Ghana for edio many cooks and your man no ho said the way I exercise your discretion I say and the second thing about that problem is say what do you share see no per state house no near you know I say I another job for the boys until the last time bakuna OSP investigating all the loans say you say then they come delegates it would be in some boy you must say oh me na me in charge of inti me ko delegates primary inti me the loans man go for no ma vote amame me the bribe no ma vote amame you know issues around scholarship secretariat all these things a big problem inti say adwuma na ese benefit abino na improving the finances no de bia na fe ye no basa bia keke ye be make sure say ye benya nkofo more time with me focus no met me ye adwuma na boa ye no ye and this is on top of the problem we have having say a lot of MPs already were boards na nti board no say bibi koso na e balance parliament say omohwe so the same parliamentarian not the board no so ena no okokocha e di assembly it's yes na state institutions in your politicizing no now politicize these state institutions are omuntimi nya adwuma papa bia maye eti parties no eso motiase say there is a line we have to avoid na say see abia ye kono with all our economic situation it doesn't look like you care it's any person you train aban adwen ba ho say yes no even your external debt negotiations crying for the last 2 years you are suspending your interest payments come 2025 see start to your interest payments eka ye dia e be brepa eti economy ne there say you betimi aya na yi corruption issues ne accountability ne discipline no esi ye hwe eti but esi ehu say omo ye nsesi a o enye so be catch say o me dey me win power na san ma ba be ye sesi a no what parliament our power what Jubilee House our power then na wo ye akire Ghanaians say ye ma otumi a obetumi aba be ye de oka no enye sam a debi later yeah, crisis near to see it's then now we are cheering. Now, yes, I know my way. A better no be any confidence you say the man will be different. It's no na ye kase. And your man now we perceive evidence. Say ye the two me mawa obeti me aye. Member my friends and stories be thank you.
Na adekuru so yedi hu komo in statement the petitioner was Akama president on the OSP and yatase the nipa outro petition Imraman who can don't show them petition in former president and indeed Imrama president nanka so who can the onfa petition on former chief justice no one but as a coalition no ye pede ye kai president and there's a way to why and them za no onye consistent every other petition biara ye da brain another citizens da brain on any public institution no to them a president to my forward my chief justice no onye them petitions ni nyina dem in fact petitions are wa badada in a petitions are obebe nyinara ye expect the president no obo forward my chief justice ma da all the way fa ho no wa ya fa ho na dem asem no so ye di enwa ye di chi ye hu musma OSP no wa ye ni adwuma ye hu ne ho enkekan na nsama wa be nyina nti ye di enwa di dem asem no so echi na mobesi biara ya hwe no ho asem na yaka ye da se Harrison Kujo.
Yeah, Samuel Harrison Kujo. He's from Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, a part of the Citizen Coalition. Thank you all. If I may add something to all that's been said. I mean, with all the impunity facing us, I implore all of you here to really push our politicians and public officers to be accountable to us. I mean, let's not allow them to just say all the fanciful things and walk away. There are issues presently haunting our economy. We don't want them to come telling us they are going to be creating a canal, they're going to build universities and all that. The economy is in a mess now. So they should tell us practical things that they are going to be doing to resolve corruption as a key issue for us. So they don't come just talking their way into public office. And we know that you are colleagues in this corruption drive will help us, because the media is at the forefront of getting our leaders to be accountable to us. So please, let's all do our best for Mother Ghana, because it's becoming one too many. We always come to complain after the fact. And most of the time when this happens in our society, do you realize there's no sanction? So the next government will come, before coming in, they'll complain about the past one spending monies unlawfully. But when they come, nothing happens, and they also spend more unlawfully. So it's about time we put a stop to it. Thank you all for responding to our call. Unless somebody has a statement to make or all right, Mary from GI wants to say something to us, then we can conclude.
I was speaking with Adam, and we see that people are very sober, quiet, reflective. This is a sign that apathy, yesterday we were talking about it, that there's so much apathy in the system. This is because people have seen that there is very little action when it comes to the fight against corruption. Sanctioning is not effective. We have seen very inadequate action when it comes to issues of corruption being pushed. And so when the statement talks about the fact that we want to see the rule of law promoted, it is through myself and through you that we can see this happen. This is a serious matter. The Constitution gives us the power as citizens to determine our destiny and heritage as a people. And it also says we give this power or reside it in a president, an executive president at that, who ensures that he steers the affairs of state. When we see that things are not going well, it is our duty to speak out, to reject, and to denounce all forms of wrongdoing. When we sit and look or watch aloof, then we are making a mistake. Posterity would judge us for that. Do not let us allow the excessive politicization of our governance or our democracy affect our media reportage. Let us try as much as possible, as the songwriter says in Tree, or say ma omayi hu enhiao na Ghana man eye wara wode enti say eyende there, then we must all be proactive to ensure that we educate, we empower, we inform, to ensure that we are bridging the apathy gap, because people are sitting aloof and it is not good for us. We have seen in other jurisdictions where people sat aloof for a long time, and when they arose, it was chaos. We do not want Ghana to be in such a situation. We want Ghana to reverse the tides. We have sunk so low, and our democracy is not worth emulating. Kojo has spoken to the fact that the Afrobarometer report shows that we have not been doing too well. The corruption perception index has stagnated over 4 years, and it doesn't speak well for us. So let's all arise as Ghanaians to ensure that the democracy we want is what we are practicing. We have given power to people, but that does not mean we are powerless. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Yeah, thank you all. I'm sure we can make some of the statements available to you when we're done. Daniel and there's another colleague around. They would be out there at the table, so if you need any of the statements, they would get it for you.